So you one of the last chapters is it Saliu? How would you say Pa's last name?
Oh, Parsley.
Salu, right? And
Yeah.
just about I mean he literally has a stutter and you even talk about vulnerability. There was I think maybe an interview where he almost like couldn't get through it. And I mean I
Mm,
know, those can be incredibly embarrassing and just talk about
mm,
how when he hits the mic, like just none of that matters. He's smooth, he doesn't have to think about his words. So really cool combination of like really up and comers and then
mm,
some of the old school ones, some like So Solid and all of that.
mm.
Um, I love, like I said, going along with that same idea, I love how the book, it's not like, okay, this story is over with, like it's kind of just beginning or it's in the middle, you know what I mean? Or it's two-thirds of the way there or whatever. We don't know.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
also like, you also like Despa, how he's now moved into like the recording studio, right?
Mm.
It's really like going to be a cool springboard launching pad for so many others.
Yeah, yeah.
Who love the music, right? There's that great scene where his daughter throws like a paper airplane, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
that innocence of that. Um, but also with the guys from South Wales, the Asteroid Boys, and just like they're not that old. I think one's like 27, 26, one's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
31. But just like what do you do after the music is over and you describe
Mm.
how kind of how that group kind of came to an end. And just how I think of it like in the sporting way, right? Like what the heck does a guy do who's played tennis or basketball for 30
Mm.
years and then just retires,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And so there's a lot of that really cool like, summing up and the after with a capital A, but
Mm.
also the fact that hey, things are still moving, there's still a lot of change and a lot of evolution. And then of course that last chapter with the football club, like you said, that's set up for um for Cadet, the Blaine Cameron Johnson Football Club, and DIY, just like a lot of the music in the book.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I think a big part of what I wanted to do with the book was show the legacy of the music, to show
Mm-hmm.
like how did the music really impact people's personal and day-to-day lives, as much as the big stuff of selling records and tours and this kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
how did music move through like the everyday of someone's lives, and how did the music and how did rap change people's lives in those more quieter ways too? So someone like Parsaloo, who is like one of the kind of has been one of the leaders of the new school generation of rappers,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it'd be quite interesting to show that as much as he has had like quite traumatic at points story, where he's like, I guess, grew up um drug dealing, got shot, these kind of things, but also it was like music not only, I guess, lifted him away from some of those scenarios, but also helped him be able to speak
Yeah.
English fluently, almost like he'd come
Right,
to
right,
the
right.
9 years old and meant that he struggled sometimes with English in school. And then, but when he found music, he found like a clear way to express himself. And I think that's quite a
Mhm.
powerful thing too. And the same with, as you say, with Despa, who'd always wanted to start a music studio, has been able to do that. Whereas for other people who maybe the music didn't take them all the way to stardom,
Yeah.
like some of the actual boys were, and they then are now rebalancing and doing other things in their lives. I wanted to show just like how music is threaded through the everyday
Mm.
lives and what the real legacy of the music has been,
Yeah.
in that sense too, and to show how impactful and how important it is to people all across the country.
Yeah, kind of like the last question for you is, I guess, combining like the music and also just like your career and what your future projects are. Like, 2023 marked, 50 years of hip hop in the US, big all
Yeah,
kinds of celebrations and award shows and think pieces and all that, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't, the old heads, like I'm 43, almost 44, like back in the day there was, such and such, and we had Tupac and we had,
yeah, yeah,
Biggie and we had, Bone Thugs and Harmony and we had this and that. And this music now is mumble rap, blah blah blah. I guess my question is kind of where do you see like the genres plural going? Are you thinking you're going to be charting? Like, do you have some other ideas about what you'll be charting? And also, like in the book, there aren't that many w women referenced, and I don't think that's you. That's your ignorance. I think that's probably like music in general, like hip hop in general, like the world in general, that women haven't been given short shrift, to put it lightly. So I wonder about like kind of how you see the music evolving now that it's becoming popular. Does it necessarily have to like sell out?
mm.
You know what I mean? And just kind of like where you see yourself in that mix.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because
Sorry, that's a lot
I
of questions. That's a lot there.
no, no, it's all good. Because a lot of the conversation that we'd seen happen in the US as like hip hop became such a commercial force and entity, then
Right.
people will start to worry about the legitimacy of the music anymore. Like, what
Uh-huh.
is the root still there? Like those initial
Sure.
elements you went into hip hop, are they still present? Does the music have substance anymore? Is it catering for the community anymore? You're
Mm.
starting to see those conversations started to be had here as the music has become like a commercial
Yeah.
in the UK and outside of the UK as well. Like British rap is huge now, all
Mm.
in all of these different markets across the world. So you're starting to see that conversation had. I think there maybe like the I think there I think maybe I'm always an optimistic person, so I'm always going to say that I see good coming from the expansion of the scene because I think the a lot of these artists are now able to have careers as musicians, which I think has led to even like better albums and stuff now that maybe we
Okay.
didn't necessarily have back in the day because I guess there's just more time to be able to create something. If you have time,
Mhm.
you can pour into something in a way that you can't when necessarily you're time poor in that sense. So I think
Mm.
that's also a big thing. And I think the sounds are starting to disperse and grow a bit more diverse a little bit, which is quite cool. Which I think is always going to be a good thing. So I
Yeah.
am optimistic for the future. I definitely think there's definitely going to be a commercial element to UK rap now. That's not going anywhere. And I think just as so long it's balanced with I guess like the substance, I think hopefully we should be fine. And I think there are good signs of that because probably like some of the biggest rappers in the UK now, Stormzy, Dave, Little Sims, these are people all who have like massive substance in their music.
Mhm.
There's another one who many people say is probably the best rapper in the UK at the time, at this point in time.
I'm sorry, who was the
Very
last one you mentioned? You said
um,
Pa?
Potter
Yeah,
Paper
yeah.
is
Oh,
from
okay.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of those artists have real gravitas and real substance and real meaning in their music at
Mm.
the same time. So I think as long as hopefully that continues to be the case, that I'm quite optimistic about where things will go. And I think as you say, then I think hopefully it also opens the door for more women as well, because I think where before the barriers to entry are so much lower now. Like you don't have to be before, as it's something I talk
Mm.
about, a lot of the music was coming out of youth clubs or coming out of pirate radio sets, which are like very testosterone heavy
Mm.
environments, like young teenagers, early 20s, 20 young boys in a room. There's like a lot of aggression in those places, and you can see it in
Mhm.
a lot of archive footage. And when you speak to a lot of the people that were there, they'd say, like, yeah, that wasn't a place that I'd want my sister to go to.
Huh.
Whereas now you don't need to be in those spaces to make music. So I think
Mm.
hope that broadens, that flattens like the levels of playing field for a lot of people too.
Sure.
But I think there's also an attitude thing. Like people have to be willing to. I think a lot of men, in a ways, some ways, aren't willing to listen to women rappers in the same way that they are to men. So I think the attitude change is also, I think, going to have to be a part of it too.
Mm.
And then as for myself, yeah, I think my as I guess as one thing I really learned about myself in doing the book was learning, I guess, like about myself as an artist in that sense and what do I like. As I said, a lot of my influences come from fiction, narrative nonfiction. So those are things I'm definitely going to look to explore as
Mm.
a writer in general. And so I think yeah, I think I'll probably yeah, I feel like quite fluid in what I
Yeah.
think I'm able to do next. I feel like the love of writing will probably guide those things, and the love of storytelling will guide those things. But I've started to explore telling stories in different avenues or
Mm.
different subject matters, whether that be sport, football,
Yeah.
other elements too. And so I'm gonna probably continue to look to doing that. But I think the themes of looking to document life in contemporary Britain will always remain at the core there, whether that's a novel, whether that's a book like this, whether
Mm.
that's an essay, whether that's, I don't know, a documentary or
Mm.
whatever that is. I think that's like kind of where I see myself at for the next 4 or 5 years or so.
Mhm. Storytelling transcends genres, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
You have great storytelling. I'm gonna ask you a very controversial question. Who are you a supporter of a certain club or?
Yeah, yeah, I support Southampton, a smaller club in
Okay.
yeah, the
Okay.
South. So we're actually doing it right now, so I can say that with a lot more pride than maybe a year ago. But yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
said we. Okay. All right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I would say it like my brother's a friend. Like, what number do you wear? No, just kidding. You know. Okay, Southampton. All right, all right. Well, yeah, I think you mentioned your age and the under 30 under 30 a couple years ago, and it's ridiculous in a great way that you've written such a good book at such a young age. This book is so well done, it could be your life's work, but I'm sure there are other great pieces to come from you. So I really just appreciate you, really just educating, enlightening, and really putting these personal touches on the story that make this such a good book. So those people listening, go out and get it. You'll be listening to this probably on the 18th of January and beyond. The book is now out there in the world. Go get it. And I just want to thank you so much, Neef, for letting us into your lab a little bit and giving us some of the rationale and the background on your writing. Appreciate you.
No, thank you. Appreciate you too. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Awesome talking to you.